Okay, today we're going to do the footer on this wireframe, and we're going to leave this main content empty for right now because what we're trying to do is get a scenario where we have the ability to copy the code that we have and then create these other pages based off of the header and footer being the same on every page. So let's get to it. All right, so this should be pretty easy, really. This is just three divs, copyright, some social media links, and then an email. Let's go to our code. And just so we have a distinction for the section here, this main body, I'm going to put a style in here real quick, and we'll do a comment real quick called main content style. And I'll add a comment here as well. This will be end of header styles. And to do the same, we're going to go up here, put a comment, header styles. So what this does is it lets me keep the styles separate in the same style sheet. By doing this, I know that these styles here are for anything in the header, and whatever I put here is going to be for the main content. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say main, that's the wrapper for everything. I'm going to say min height. We'll just give it 200 pixels. That way we have some height, because if we don't put anything in the main, it will collapse. So we're just telling it that it has to be at least 200 pixels high. And so that we can see it, we will put border 1 pixel solid black. Okay. And I'm going to do end of main content style. And can you guess what's next? That's right. It is footer style. And we might as well go ahead and put end of footer styles. And like I said, this is just to keep everything organized. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And let's go back and look at what we have now. So we can see here that our content is actually this area here. There is nothing in there. If we take a look at this using the Google developer tools, so that's Option Command I, and I'm going to change this to view to the side. And we've already got this set as a Pixel 2 XL. So this gives me an idea of what this might look like on my phone right now. And now we've got to replace the footer. So let's go back to the editor and let's go to the index page. So the first thing we have, I'm going to switch back over to the Figma. And if we do it just right, I can see just that one side. There we go. So we have copyright and first name, last. So I'm going to put my first name, last name. Now this is a separate row. So I'm actually going to put this in a div and we'll give it a class of copy. And then we'll close the div. And next comes social media. So div class equals social media. As a habit, I always do the second word is capitalized. It's called camel case. It's from old computer science classes. And with this, I'm going to do, well, let's just go ahead and spell out these right now because we'll replace them. So let's say we have Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Let's do LinkedIn. Close that div. And finally, we have contact. So div equals, div class equals contact. And this will be me at markmace.info. It's one of my many identities. Okay, so we've basically got our content in. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. We'll do a save, go over here, and we've got all of our content here. Now that doesn't look very neat, and in the wireframe we have everything centered. So since all of this is in the footer, we could cheat. We could cheat and say inside the CSS, we could say footer text align center. And what this is going to do is everything within the footer is going to have a text align of center. Let's go ahead and save that. Go back, refresh the page. So that works, but it's probably going to create a problem later when I want to do different things. So let's go ahead and we'll leave it that way for right now. And we're just going to do a little bit of cleanup. So index, this copyright, nobody wants to see that spelled out. There is a web entity called ampersand copy. And the way you do that is you do ampersand copy semicolon save, and let's refresh. So that gives me the nice little copyright sign, and that will show up the same regardless of what browser you're using, since it is a web entity. And for these, we're going to keep this as a separate item, and we're going to talk about Font Awesome for this. And if we wanted to do this as a link, we could do href equals mail to, put a colon, put your email address in, and then we could say contact me, or better yet, email me, and close the ahref tag. What this does is it basically creates a link that when I click on this, it's going to open up my mail program. And it's going to say to, and it's going to use that email address, and it's going to say from me, of course. I don't want to do that necessarily. This comes down to a personal decision on your part. Do you just put your email address out there and assume that somebody can click on it? Do you instead link that to a form? So maybe that's what we'll do with this. Instead of actually having your email address listed, we say contact me and it links to a form. That might be the best solution possible. But we still have a viable web page. Crap. Okay. That don't save. And we'll do the social media with Font Awesome or images. There's more than one way to do these things. Oh, the one last thing I wanted to do is, this wasn't intentional, but notice I have a grid behind here. Now, what we can do is we can set a background image for this and repeat it, and we can get this grid. And this is just a good way to do an example. I'm going to change this, email me. I'm going to change this to contact me. And this is going to go to a page that doesn't exist yet. Contact.html. And all this is going to be as a form. This is just going to be a real simple form that a person can put in their email address, name, and why they want to talk to you. And once again, this will be a separate video. So let's go back, and we want to put a image on this footer, and we want it to be that grid. So what I did was I created a 10 by 10 grid. Now this is actually, notice that this is just the L shape. Well, imagine if it repeats, this will start over here and we'll get a grid. So this is actually a 9 by 9, not a 10 by 10, but I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go back to my desktop and sample portfolio. And now I want to keep everything organized. So I'm going to do a new folder, and I'm going to call it images. And I am going to put that 10 by 10 grid.png in there. Now, the way we do a background image on a section or on an element is we do it in CSS, right? We've already set in style, we've already set text align center. So let's do background image. And the way we do this is we give it a URL. And now this part tricks up a lot of people. We have to tell the CSS where the image is in comparison to the CSS file. So we are currently in this directory. We need to tell it to go up one directory. So ... says go up one directory. That puts us in the sample portfolio directory. And then we're going to go into the images directory. And we want the 10x grid.png. Let's save this and see if I did it right. Okay, so we basically have a 10 by 10 grid. Now, this is really not good. It really reduces the readability. But if there was an instance where you would want an actual grid or a design or a gradient, something, anything, you can put an image as a background. And what this does is it repeats the image. By default, it repeats the image. Now, you can tell it to not repeat. That's always an option. And since that is such a horrible looking thing, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to comment this out, because while I don't necessarily think that it's I like the idea of having a background image. This one just does not work. It's very distracting, makes it difficult to read, and it's a disservice to anybody that's trying to use your web page. Okay, and that's it for the footer.